Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of
Master Feedback.
Master Feedback is my service where I help improve your mix by giving actionable feedback. And once you worked with my feedback, take over your final mix to master it. In this video series, I'll show you examples from my daily mastering work. For this episode, Miro from Brazil sent me a mix of his band Superlike for mastering. I know for a fact that Miro has read my book Your Mix Sucks. So naturally the mix was already at a really good place. Let's have a listen.
Eu acordo meio-dia, nem por isso vem dizer o que eu faço da minha vida não interessa pra você. A diferença entre a cerveja e a sua opinião. Ah, cerveja eu pedi. Viva a vida com a consciência em paz. Minha alegria já me satisfaz.
Miro sent me a mix that already had a lot of mix bus processing on it, and he did a solid job on that. However, I really wanted to work the mastering from Miro's raw mix without any mix bus processing. Another thing that was obvious was that the bass guitar was too loud in the mix, which is extremely difficult to undo in mastering. It's a lot easier if Miro fixes this in his mix before mastering. I also thought the kick was already too compressed. I don't mind if it sticks out a bit. Finally, the crash cymbals were so loud you could hear they were already driving some of the mix bus compression. Also, the mid sounded a bit flat on his mix. This is something I wanted to sort out in mastering. So here we are listening to Miro's revised mix, which has no mix bus processing. This is definitely ready for mastering. Let me take you through the mastering chain I am using on this. The Waves Pultec MEQ brings the vocals a little bit forward. Since the Pultec has a very wide boost, it's a very subtle and musical boost. This particular Waves Pultec is also saturating the sound a little bit, adding some tube vibe to the mix. Very subtle 1.5 dB boost at 8K in shelving mode, that's the red knob on the SSL, makes the vocals a lot clearer. Another subtle boost at 6K to give the vocals that upfront in-your-face feel, that is the orange knob. The green knob adds some life to the guitars, again very subtle, about 1 dB at 2K. The Waves RS56 is a plugin that Miro had on his original mix bus settings. We replicated the settings he had on his mixes, but reduced them a little bit. One of the EQ bands set to 11.6K brings out the tambourine a little bit, just 1 dB, that's all. Another EQ band at 128 Hz gives kick and bass some punch at a range where it matters on consumer devices, 2.2 dB, which is still very subtle. We tried different bus compressors from Slate and liked the SSL bus compressor best. It has a great way keeping the bass guitar under control while adding some punch to the kick at the same time. The Waves Fairchild is not really used as a compressor here. It reduces only about half a dB and is adding some nice harmonics that are difficult to describe, but it brings a lot of life into the mix. All we're doing on this linear phase EQ is cutting a resonance that's coming from the bass guitar. By notching out 76 Hz, we're reducing the sustain of the bass guitar. We are doing a very broad boost at 60 Hz on this Pultec. Always keep in mind that on the Pultec even a 60 Hz boost goes up to about 500 Hz. Again, it's very subtle but adds weight to the mix. We're also adding a very broad boost at 3K that brings vocals and guitars even more upfront. This linear phase EQ we are using for the final amount of low end in the mix. A very steep low cut at 25 Hz reduces the energy of frequencies that are not really used by any of the instruments in the song. We're also targeting a resonance in the tambourine we didn't like. This late FGX is where we get a lot of the loudness from. The FGX is doing several things at the same time. The gain knob is saturating the mix and reduces a lot of peaks, while the transient section brings some of the lost transients back. The dynamic perception section is probably a pretty complex algorithm. It's certainly using parallel compression to bring some low-level elements of the mix more upfront. To get the full potential out of the FGX, you have to make sure to feed it with a very balanced mix. You really have to sort out all the problems and resonances before inserting the FGX. A lot of people believe that you can just put it on your mix and it will sort out the mastering. Not true. The Waves L2 is used as our final brick wall limiter. It's barely doing anything but keeps the level within 1 dB of the digital maximum. I try to never go higher than that to make sure the MP3 or AAC conversion used on iTunes or Spotify has a little bit of headroom. Here's a direct comparison where both the original and our final master have about 1 dB headroom left.
Eu acordo meio-dia, nem por isso vem dizer o que eu faço da minha vida não interessa pra você. A diferença entre a cerveja e a sua opinião. Ah, cerveja eu pedi. Viva a vida com a consciência em paz. Minha alegria já me satisfaz. Eu sei a sociedade que te julga o dia inteiro, que entra pelo ouvido, sai com força no banheiro. Tem gente que se acha porque tem muito dinheiro, mas todo mundo é igual, pergunta pro coveiro. Por isso eu sou feliz, eu vivo a cantar. Dessa vida não tem nada pra levar. Tudo que conquistei foi com muita luta. Não vou baixar a cabeça pra nenhum filho da... Eu levo a minha vida na paz, elevo o pensamento em você. Esqueço tudo que faz mal e a tristeza passa longe de mim.
Overall, I would say the initial changes we asked Miro to do on his mix were certainly 50% of the end result. There is no point in trying to reduce the level of the bass guitar in the master when it's a very simple thing for the producer to just turn the fader in his mix down a little bit. Same goes for the cymbals. Of course it's possible to use de-essers to reduce them in the mix, but at the same time that is messing too much with the rest of the material.
Levo a minha vida na paz, elevo o pensamento em você. Esqueço tudo que faz mal e a tristeza passa longe de mim.
If you're interested to get your song mastered using the master feedback process, contact us through the website. The link is in the description. You also find my mixing guide Your Mix Sucks under the same address. Let me know your thoughts on this video in the comments and make sure to like and subscribe to my channel.
Celebrar a vida, cada cuida da sua. Eu acordo meio-dia, nem por isso vem dizer o que eu faço da minha vida não interessa pra você. É a diferença entre a cerveja e a sua opinião.